Hey everyone, welcome and welcome back to the channel. I'm Abby, a kind of jack of all trades horse gal, and today I am sharing an inside look at a short training session with my Mustang named Hickory. My goal for this session was to add to his groundwork foundation in preparation for saddle starting. Hickory is a coming 4-year-old Mustang gelding, and I'd like to be able to ride him this summer. Considering multiple factors around this session such as time, physical ability, mentality, and surrounding situations, I felt as though starting the process of him learning to side up to the fence would be a good thing to do today. So after building some connection, I spent half of our time teaching him to bring his hindquarters to me, and the other half sitting on the fence and just getting him comfortable with me above him. As you can see, I began teaching him to bring his hindquarters over to me by putting the lead rope around the opposite side of him, giving the beginning cue and asking him to follow the feel of the halter pressure. Doing this almost guarantees that he takes at least one step towards me with his hind legs, which I release by removing the cue and the pressure. When he seems as though he's in the mood for it, I pet him to try to give him a reward. I want that hip to come towards me because when asking a horse to side over to you at the fence or a mounting block, it's a lot easier to bring their shoulders over to you than it is their hind end. So I am working on the hind end with him first to try to make it all come together easier and nicer. Now, obviously, with training or horses in general, not everything is going to be perfect, let alone look perfect. There's some points in this video that I mess up, and times where he gets more tense or sensitive, and just some overall things that are not ideal. Training, to me at least, is about an imperfect creature trying to improve another imperfect creature and themselves for a goal or purpose. You have to practice in order to progress, and progress is not linear, especially when you are talking about beings both capable of mistakes that also do not speak the same language. If both of you are traveling in a generally positive direction, you can't beat up on yourself too much for those inevitable, not ideal moments. This also means that your horse needs a little grace because they too are not perfect. You also will not communicate effectively with them every time. I can't think of a single person who has communicated perfectly every time in their human relationships, so there is really no way you will be a great communicator 100% of the time with a being that doesn't understand human language. This all absolutely does not mean people shouldn't work with or train horses. It just means that we need to be aware of these barriers and work to better ourselves for our horses. It also means that being uptight about what the horse is and isn't doing is not helpful, and also being anxious about trying to be perfect isn't going to make perfection more obtainable. Long story short, we are just out here doing our best, and you should also do your best because your best is all you can do. Anyway, back to explaining the madness. Here I am now attempting the trick with just the new cue and not asking him to follow the feel of his halter. He spins that butt towards me and he kind of moves away, similar to what I had him doing previously. Practice makes progress, and I definitely feel like that shows his progress. Now notice real quickly where I released that cue. I took the stick away from his butt when he made a full step towards the left with his hind legs, because that is what I want him to do. And so releasing there tells him to do that again and again because that's where the release is. Here is one of those non-ideal moments. I did not prepare him as well on the off side as I did on the working side, so when I went straight into asking him to move to the right, he got confused, and then I rushed him a bit by going to more of a tap, which made him anxious and just more confused. In moments like this, when it's safe to, I kind of just stick with it because I don't want to teach a bad thing. Obviously, there are times that you mess up bad that you have to back down for the sake of everyone. But this was a time that I felt I needed to stick with it, release when he does what I want, recoup, and try again. He obviously didn't hold a grudge after I messed up, and he joined back up with me and was open to continue learning, which we just picked back up and continued practicing. A concern some may have with me being behind him is what if he were to kick me, but I am not really worried about that with him because he's not showing any of the signs of wanting to kick and he's not out to get me. So here's a kind of repeat of the earlier incident, but I was a little bit better handling it, and he obviously was better handling it too. He was just confused and concerned about things going on outside the round pen. So after just kind of working a little bit and just kind of reassuring him and bringing him back down from being anxious, I decided that I wanted to move on, but before then, I wanted to see if I could just get his hip to move towards me on the working side. So I was using the lead rope and the fence to do that, which he did. And so we moved on to me just sitting on the fence above him, since that was a lower stress thing to do. And I've done this with him before. I've ponied him, so he's seen me above him. I just wanted to have some quiet time, chill time with him before putting him away. Sitting above your horse, especially your youngsters, is so simple, but it can make a huge impact. Just think about it. It's mimicking standing tied, but also they get comfortable with seeing a human above them, which being scared of a human being above them can be a huge trigger for colts on their first ride. It's also a virtually no impact exercise, as your horse just needs to stand there and you just need to sit on top of the fence. So you can even do this with your horses that are too young to ride, or if you aren't fully okay to ride. As long as you can safely bring your horse near a solid fence, climb the fence, and sit on the fence, you can do it with them. Now, for more reactive horses, you may want a longer line so that they can start out at a farther distance away, and then you can ever so gradually reel them closer. But worst case scenario, you let go of the lead rope, get off, and catch them again. This little exercise can also help with some patience and working through some buddy sourness or herd anxiety, like you'll see a little bit here. When his buddy Coda walked past, you can see him start dancing a bit, which I allowed him to figure it out himself while trying to keep him with me. Obviously, there's different ways of handling buddy sourness, but for him, especially in this situation, I feel like this is a fair approach, and he did calm down. You will notice where I bumped the lead rope, which those times are moments I feel like he is disconnecting with me or mentally bolting, so I remind him that I am there just to bring some attention to his task at hand, which was to stay with me at the fence. The mind moves before the body, which is why I was concerned with keeping him with me mentally. Also notice how he was in an ideal position, his side by the fence, so I didn't want to be too critical of him when he was doing a positive thing. Sometimes a horse will exhibit a negative behavior, but also do a positive thing, and you have to weigh the negative versus the positive. Here, his buddy sour behavior didn't outweigh him being in a good position and not bolting off, so he needed me to just let him figure things out for himself. Horses also tend to process things like frustration and anxiousness through moving their feet, which is why he needed this space to move. Here, I like that he's kind of seeking me out. I went to go pet him because sometimes he likes that, but he was not in the mood and kind of just distracted him even more. As Coda moved out of sight, he became more anxious, causing him to be stronger in the halter and me having to hold my ground a little more. He really transitioned into strike, run, survive mode because naturally horses are much more vulnerable without their herd. He sees Coda as his safety because he has spent 99% of the last, honestly, 7 or so months at her side. So naturally, he's going to trust her, the 99%, a lot more than me, the 1%. It's honestly being great, all things considered. My lack of time into him is the pure reason that he's behaving like he is in this situation. But I'm trying to reverse that this year, and spending more time with him like I am here is one way I'm trying to do that. Obviously, there's a lot of ways to handle this. Some would say to make him run until he's too tired to act like this. Others say that he should live isolated for a little while. Some people would be furious that I'm holding him there when his behavior is my fault and I should just turn him back out with her so that he can be right back at her hip. Others would want me to catch Coda and tie her next to the round pen so that Hickory can be comfortable. You can go back and forth with 100 different options. Running him to exhaustion will only make his anxiety problem way worse because it would equate anxiety to running, so if he gets anxious, he'd take off. Isolation wouldn't help him because he's a horse and horses need equine friends, and honestly, he might just hurt himself given his anxiety and personality if put in isolation. Turning him out to Kodo would essentially teach him that if he wants to go to her, he just goes to her, which I don't want him bolting or going through fences to get to her. She's also not going to live to 40 just for him to be comfortable all of his life. I hope that she can live a very long, happy life, but if she does, it won't be for him. Clearly, she's fine with him being uncomfortable so that she can go do her own thing. She only comes over because I'm her cookies and pets piggy bank. When she realizes that I have no food and she gets her little pet, she walks away again, even though he's worried. Now, tying her near the round pen was definitely a thought, but honestly, he needs to work through it, so why not do it now? I think what I did here was probably the best decision for him in the moment because he self-regulated and did not panic. Honestly, that is huge considering his history of how he used to handle any amount of anxiety. We got to a point where while he was observant of where Kodo was, he relaxed a bit and really connected with me, and I decided that that was a good time to wrap things up. Before you go, what's something you are working on with your horse right now? If you don't have a horse, what's something you are learning or want to learn? Let me know down in those comments. Also, if you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up and let me know. Then subscribe and click that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of the weekly equine shenanigans. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Have an awesome day.